The asphalt shimmered under the late summer sun, a long silver tongue of heat curling off Highway 22 as it crossed the wide, empty stretches of Nevada desert. The sky was endless, a pale blue bowl turned upside down over miles of dust, shrubs, and the occasional lonely billboard whispering promises of cold drinks and slot machines. Truckers passed now and then, their engines groaning as they pushed their heavy cargo toward faraway cities, but for the most part, the highway was quiet, peaceful, and forgotten by time. It was in this stillness that the low, rolling thunder began, a sound that didn't come from the sky but from the earth itself. A dozen Harley Davidsons streaked down the highway like metal beasts, chrome flashing, engines roaring, leather jackets flapping in the wind. They rode tight, disciplined, powerful. These were men you didn't approach lightly, men you didn't stare at for more than a second. Their patches, the winged skull of the Hells Angels, caught the light like fire. People whispered about them, made up stories about them, feared them, judged them, assumed the worst about them. But stories, as always, are shallow reflections of truth. Today, the truth was about to speak louder than any rumor ever could. At the front of the formation rode the chapter president, a weathered man known as Bear. His beard, thick and gray, draped over his chest like something carved from wire. His eyes, cold and sharp, scanned the horizon behind dark sunglasses. On his left forearm was a faded tattoo of a falcon, wings spread wide. On his right was an old scar from a knife fight no one dared ask him about. Behind his intimidating appearance, there was a quiet calm, a sense of purpose. Bear didn't ride for thrill anymore, he rode for peace. To his right was Tank, a mountain of a man whose arms were bigger than most men's legs. Behind them were Copper, Slick, Danny Boy, and the rest of the chapter. Each had his own story, each had demons, each found freedom only when the wind tangled in their beards and their engines roared like thunder gods. They were on a charity ride, ironically enough raising money for a veterans' shelter in Reno. People never believed it when they said Hell's Angels cared, but they did, fiercely, quietly, without applause. Bear raised a fist and the entire group slowed, not because of danger, not because of a problem, but because they had spotted something unusual on the side of the road. A dark blue SUV sat parked on the gravel shoulder, hood open. A thin trail of vapor drifted into the air, like the breath of an injured animal. Beside it stood a woman, mid-30s, short hair plastered to her forehead, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She looked like someone who had driven far too long without rest. Her hands were trembling. Her posture was stiff, unnatural, tense. But it wasn't the SUV or her posture that caught Bear's attention. It was her hand. She wasn't waving, she wasn't pointing, she was doing something very specific. A half-closed fist, thumb tucked in, a subtle downward motion, then a quick opening and closing again, twice. Then again, Tank saw it too. Boss, that's a distress signal, right? Bear didn't answer immediately. He watched the woman repeat the gesture, small and desperate, almost hidden behind her thigh. Someone unfamiliar would have missed it. It wasn't the kind of wave you would give to get help for a flat tire. It was a signal that had spread online, taught quietly between parents, women's groups, self-defense instructors. A silent message that meant one thing: help me. Someone is controlling me, someone is hurting me, I can't speak. I can't escape, but please, help me. Bear pulled his bike over so sharply the back wheel kicked up dust. Tank and the others followed immediately, instinctively forming a protective semicircle between the woman and the road. But Bear noticed something else. A man was sitting in the passenger seat of the SUV, and the moment he saw the bikers approach, he leaned forward just enough for Bear to see his face, a glare, hard, warning. Possessive, not the stare of a husband worried about a broken engine, the stare of a predator guarding prey. Bear lowered his kicks and swung his leg off the bike. He pushed his sunglasses up just enough for the man to see his eyes. Eyes that promised, "You're done. Afternoon, ma'am," Bear said, voice calm, slow, polite. So calm it was almost chilling. Looks like your ride's givin' you trouble. Everything all right here?" The woman's lips trembled before she spoke. "Why, yes, I'm fine, just car trouble." Her voice was too even, scripted. The man in the SUV leaned out the window. "We're good, don't need help." Bear didn't even look at him, "Wasn't talking to you." The man stiffened. Tank stepped forward, blocking the SUV door from opening. Copper casually rested his hand near the handle of his vest, where a chain hung, not threatening, but very visible. The desert went quiet. The woman looked between the bikers and the man, her chest rising as if she was gathering courage. I'm not okay," she whispered, and then she did the gesture again. Slick stepped closer. "Ma'am, you with this man willingly?" The SUV man barked. "Of course she is. She's my wife." The woman flinched. Bear's jaw locked. "I didn't ask you, son." Tank leaned down until his giant frame filled the SUV window. "Get out." "I'm not." "Get out." The man got out. Even the wind seemed to pause, waiting for what would happen next. Bear placed himself between the woman and the man, blocking the SUV completely. "Ma'am, you're safe with us. You don't have to say a word you don't want to, but if you want to leave with us, just nod." She didn't nod immediately. She looked at the ground, then at the empty desert, then at the bikers, these giants in leather, these men everyone feared, and slowly, softly, she nodded. The SUV man exploded. "She's lying. She does this. She's crazy. You have no right to interfere. You don't know what she's done." Bear took one slow step forward. "Son, you should stop talking." But the man didn't. "She's mine. She belongs with." Tank moved first, not violently, not brutally, just swift. He pinned the man's arm behind his back and leaned him against the SUV. "Don't say another disrespectful thing to her. Not one." The man spasmed in panic. "You can't do this. I'll sue. You're assaulting me." Bear pulled out his phone, dialed someone, and held it to his ear. "Sheriff McCall? Yeah, it's Bear. We've got a situation off Highway 22, mile marker 81. Domestic danger call. Woman's signaling distress. Yeah, we'll hold him till you get here." Tank twisted slightly. Not enough to injure, but enough to keep the man quiet. The woman started crying, not loud sobs, silent tears that fell down her cheeks like she had been holding them in for years. Slick took off his jacket and gently placed it around her shoulders. "You're okay now. No one's touching you again." She nodded, wiping her face. Thank you. I didn't know if anyone would even notice." Bear knelt slightly so he was eye level with her. "We notice everything." When the sheriff arrived, the entire situation became clear fast. The woman, Andrea, had been trying to get away from her boyfriend, who had become increasingly abusive. They had been driving for hours. He took her phone, threatened her, told her no one cared what she wanted. When the engine overheated, he forced her to wait until it cooled so they could continue. Andrea had learned the distress hand signal on TikTok during the pandemic. She never thought she'd use it. The sheriff cuffed the man, read him his rights, and loaded him into the back of his cruiser. The man screamed threats the entire time, but no one listened, especially not the bikers, who simply turned their backs to him as he was taken away. Bear looked at Andrea. "You got someone we can take you to, family, friend, somewhere safe." "My sister," she whispered. "She lives 2 towns over. Then we'll take you." Andrea blinked. You'll take me?" Bear nodded. "Ain't leaving you out here alone, not after what you've been through." The bikers helped her gather her belongings. Tank quietly tightened the SUV radiator cap and told the sheriff to tow it to Andrea's sister's house later. When Andrea climbed into Bear's truck, Copper's truck had been following behind with supplies. She looked at the dozen leather-clad men standing around her. "I thought you guys were scary." Bear shrugged. "We are, just not to people who need us." The ride to her sister's house was calm, peaceful. Andrea talked a little about her life, about how she felt trapped for years, about how she didn't even know she had the courage to signal for help until she saw the Hells Angels riding by. "You guys were like..." She searched for the words. "Angels." Danny Boy laughed. First time anyone ever meant that literally. When Andrea's sister opened the door, she saw her sister safe and escorted by a group of Hell's Angels. Her eyes widened, but then she saw Andrea's smile, small, fragile, but real. She hugged her sister tight. Andrea looked at the bikers. "Thank you, you saved me." Bear simply tipped his head. "Call us anytime, and if he comes near you again, you call us before you call the cops." Andrea nodded, tears glittering in her eyes. As the bikers rode off, Bear felt the wind shift. The desert stretched ahead, open and endless. The engines rumbled like thunder. The asphalt glowed under the heat, and somewhere behind them, a woman finally slept peacefully for the first time in years. Bear reached down to his mic and keyed into their comm line. "All right, boys. Next stop, Reno. And if you like and share my videos and subscribe the channel Kindness Soul Stories, you keep stories like this alive." His men roared with laughter. They sped forward, engines loud, hearts steady, leaving behind dust, justice, and a woman whose life changed because she dared to raise her hand and hope anyone, would notice. She was lucky. The Hell's Angels noticed.